Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you a shoutcast in a game between Pandii and JoshFreeman here on Antigua Shipyard. JoshFreeman spawning as the blue Terran player. Meanwhile, we have Pandii spawning as the green Zerg here on Antigua Shipyard. This is going to be full cross spawns as this game does get underway. I believe this is just another training match from FemFX. If you guys watched the previous game with JoshFreeman, yes, I believe these are all just training matches, and Josh is just trying to train up this team and seeing where they can go. Now, I am waiting for some DreamHack replays and some MLG replays as well. I'm trying to get those higher caliber replays, and then from there, and then hopefully from there I can cast some more best of 3 series, and we'll see how it all goes and what is in store for StarCraft 2 in 2012. And there is a lot of rumors that Heart of the Swarm will be releasing in 2012, perhaps sometime in the summer, but then again, I may just be starting a rumor all my own, so don't quote me on it. Now, Josh, as the blue Terran player, will see what he's going to go for, and this time he is going for a gas first. So this may be a Banshee rush here on Antigua Shipyard, and we'll see what is going to happen on Antigua Shipyard. Banshee rush is normally something that is not really used all too often against Zerg, especially if a Zerg is prepared and ready for it. Many times a Zerg player is able to easily scout it out and figure out what's happening, what's going on, and try to respond and react accordingly. You can see currently SCV just making his rounds out. If he does build a supply depot here, that would actually make it look like he is going for a fast expansion or not trying to tech all too quickly. SCV is just still being trained, perhaps going to get into that 16 or 17 before an orbital command will be added. And the reason for going gas first is if you do go gas first, you can build a factory right as the barracks is done, and that does add into your critical path and what takes the longest. As we are now upgrading to an orbital command, training a Marine, and now really not quite sure if I agree with the training of the Marine first, and also getting the supply depot, unless Josh wants to get a lot of gas. All right, call me confused, as we are now getting into that factory. The factory is going to be a little bit later than I would like to see, especially since he does have a lot of gas there, and now going into a reactor. So this is a reactor Hellion opening, and so a reactor Hellion opening off of a refinery first, and still harvesting gas, and we'll see how all of this goes and works out here. As normally, if you do go for a reactor Hellion openings, I've seen sometimes where the Terran player will pull SCVs off of gas in order to be able to expand right behind it. Right now, he does have about an extra 100 gas or so that is not really helping him out, unless he's going to go into a medevac and then do a drop of some sort. We are getting into an extractor off over here. SCV's able to chase down, or sorry, Zergling's able to chase down that SCV, but the SCV was able to get in a decent amount of scouting information, as Pandii currently sitting on 28 over 28, 22 drones compared to 17 SCVs, as this hatchery is now up and running with a queen now. Now, we'll see how this is all going to work out. We are going into a barracks here. We are going into those double Hellions. Spine crawler should be added over here, and it is already being built. So one spine crawler should be able to deal a fair amount of damage and fend off this attack pretty easily, as the Zerglings going to try to chase down the Marine, but just going to get absolutely torched. There goes another Zergling, and one more Zergling now being forced to run all the way home, as those Hellions are now on the move. And so the Hellions should be able to catch up to that Zergling pretty easily and torch it down. Is it going to do so? And it looks like, yes, it will do so there, and now make his way back up the ramp, but there is already a spine crawler there. Command center now being built as well. We are going into another factory, so a Terran mech play may be an option here, as the Hellions need to fight back against all of these Zerglings. I don't imagine seeing a lot of Terran mech play until Heart of the Swarm. It really feels like with the Warhound and also the Battle Hellion, it is going to be a much more robust group for Terran, or in order for Terran players to try to go mech. But really, I expect to see a transition back into double siege tanks, but I need to see more barracks in order to see that standard ground composition that most Terran players do go for. One refinery is currently the only operational refinery now. This command center is still about 2/3, 3/4 of the way completed, as the Hellions now look to finish off that Zergling. The Zergling can outrun, but simply runs back into that group once more, and it looks like the Hellions are going to be able to get them some drone kills. There's one. There's no 2 drone kills. The Hellion, or the Queen's now trying to come in, and this is going to be really bad. Oh, are they going to be able to get a torch? Yes, a nice line attack there. Another line of attack there. And Josh is just dealing so much damage against these drones, and those drones are just absolutely getting killed. Not looking good at all. 4 Hellions able to run inside the space, deal a lot of damage. The Zerglings will clean this up, but not before 11 workers have been killed. 27-17, and now the Zerg is pretty much on reset. Needs to get back into this game. As we can see that Josh is now sitting pretty happily. Will be able to run off of 2 bases for a little while. And now will we get perhaps siege tanks with siege check? Zerglings are now looking to do a counterattack of some sort. There is a bunker in play, but not a complete wall off. The Zerglings may be able to simply slip by, and it looks like they will be able to. And now, yeah, going to be able to slip by, perhaps surround, get in some easy damage onto those Hellions. Down it goes, and now looking to deal some more damage here. No, going to perhaps catch some of those Marines out of position. No, they are going to be trying to run back inside that bunker. SCVs are now getting destroyed as well, so a beautiful counterattack by Pandii, as now the orbital command is most likely just going to lift off. Now training up some more SCVs. Not quite sure about that, as the Hellions are going to be able to come in and now get in some more torching as well. Try to get back up the ramp, but the supply depots were already raised, and now getting still even more damage here. It looks like the orbital command will be forced to be repaired now, as it is down to 476 hit points. Another SCV destroyed. Zergling's going to get torched around some more, as now this orbital command down to 400 hit points. If an SCV does not come over to repair, that is going to be a very, very bad play by Josh. But Josh able to finish off that Zergling and take it down. 35 drones compared to 28 SCVs. Triple mules once again being added to the group, as the Spire is going to definitely help to even things out. And Pandii getting back into the thick of things by getting a lot more drones. But Pandii really needs to establish this hatchery over here, and right as I think that, there's already a little hatchery icon there to indicate that it will be built. Now, creep tumors, spine crawlers still being added. You can see we are running off of 4 gas now. The Spire about to pop up in just a moment, and we are going to be going into some Mutalisk harassment, as we are now going into double an engineering bay and an armory in order to just get a lot of upgrades. We'll see the engineering bay most likely just going to be for missile turrets, as the armory is indicating, or the triple factories is indicating, that we are going to be going very heavy into mech. Siege tanks, Hellions, and perhaps a Thor. Yes, a Thor also being added, and Thors are very, very deadly, unless you have a decent or a large number of roaches to really try to focus and counter them. Zerglings work also very well. Baneling's Nest also being added, so we'll see what's going to be coming in. Level 1 Zerg attack upgrades, as the bunker is in position, and a nice wall off to make sure that Zerglings are unable to run by. I'm not quite sure if there's actually enough room right there in between here in order to allow Zerglings to sneak in through that group. Mutalisk now coming in, but there's not enough to really engage yet, so you shouldn't engage with those Mutalisk. You don't want to tip your hand that you are going to be going into Mutalisk unless you know that there are going to be a lot of Thors, and it looks like Josh has bought the Collector's Edition. So yes, that is the Collector's Edition of the Thor, as the Mutalisk may try to make their way off over here. I believe that the missile turret is within range, even if you try to deal damage to this SCV. And yes, it is. And now going to go straight after that missile turret. The missile turret most likely should get repaired. Yes, and that is bad news. All of these Mutalisks will get destroyed. Oh, nope. Not all of them going to get destroyed. You're going to... Never mind. Spoke too soon. Flying straight through a Terran base and losing all 4 Mutalisks. Very, very unfortunate play, not having proper scouting before trying to engage. Pandii is now sitting on 50 drones compared to 52 SCVs. Josh is up on food right now with about a 9 food advantage. A whole bunch of Zerglings will be engaging here, as my daughter is now turning my chair. All right, so yes, it looks as though my Arya wants to watch me cast some StarCraft 2. Hi, Arya. All right, hatchery now coming in, and another macro hatch being built by Pandii here inside the base. It is going to be 3 bases versus 3 bases in just a moment, as Josh is going to be establishing this one command center, perhaps orbital command or planetary fortress in just a moment. But Pandii is going to get sight of this and perhaps get some damage onto that command center. Command center already down to 1,300 hit points. Hellion's going to come over to offer support, but not really be able to do that much there, as an Overlord is going to get shot down as well. And now Josh still going into very, very heavy mech play, and we'll see how that really works out, as the Thor is too slow to catch up to those Mutalisks. Hellions now on the move. It looks as though the Mutalisks are still wandering around. Creep tumors will get destroyed. That blue flame tech has been researched, and now the Zerglings may be able to get off a surround. No, nice split up by Josh, as the Zerglings are now backing off there. Nicely done. The Mutalisks could have perhaps picked off a couple of those in transit. Once again, as we are now going into a planetary fortress, the roaches are now being added. We are getting the Glio reconstitution. So roach movement speed upgrade, but not that strong of a creep highway by Pandii. Pandii really needs to get more creep tumors down. You can see there's a fair amount of energy on the queens back home. So by starting the creep tumors, having a better spread, it would really allow him to, or allow her to get the roaches and the Zerglings in the proper position. A lot of missile turrets being added by Josh as well. So Josh looking to really defend this one particular base with a lot of missile turrets. At this point, I would say get the Neo Steel Recon, or the Terran Steel plating, and also the auto-sec tracking to increase the range of damage, and also make these turrets a little bit more durable. The turrets naturally do not have any armor, so they take full damage from everything, making them very vulnerable to Zerg attacks, which attack with relatively low numbers, but with a high attack rate. Level 2 vehicle upgrades, so the Thors will be able to two-shot any of those Mutalisks if you do not account for natural regeneration, and if there is no Terran, or sorry, Zerg carapace upgrades yet. Now, Thor still being added, Terran vehicle plating perhaps to make them a little bit more robust against Zergling attacks. Hellions can already one-shot or two-shot drones, as they deal 21 damage per attack, and there is no carapace upgrades on the ground. Drones now perhaps being transferred back over to the high ground here, as the Hellions are looking to scout out for a third base, and this is really bad news. There is going to be a hatchery set up over here in just a moment. It looks like a drone on his way out to grow up and be a hatchery, as there is now a lot of Hellions on the move, and those Hellions are going to be able to just finish off and roast many of these Zerglings. Not enough roaches in order to deal with those Thors and those siege tanks, as the Hellions are now making their way out, and roaches are going to be able to engage, getting some easy damage. Siege tanks now in siege mode. There is a lot of Thors, and all you really now are SCVs to auto repair. Baning's now trying to roll in as well. This engagement going very badly for Josh, though, as all the Hellions have been destroyed. Siege tanks are going to be able to soften up the rest of these roaches. The roaches going to perhaps try to finish off the siege tanks, unable to do so, and that Terran siege army just so far back, getting back into position. The Mutalisks could easily finish off that siege tank there. Not quite sure why, as the Hellions going after units, and it looks as though a queen may be able to finish off a Thor, unable to do so. Zerglings now swarming back in. The Hellions are not focusing on the Zerglings, which is a bit of a problem, and it looks like these Zerglings should be able to finish off these Hellions in just a moment. There you go. There's the surround, and down it goes. A lot of workers have been destroyed in that engagement so far. 23 workers compared to 6, as a new command center being lifted off and perhaps landed here. Thor's Hellions are moving out. Level 3 weapons upgrades. Siege tanks will be able to deal 65 damage every pop. That is going to be a lot of damage, as roaches are not going to be able to really survive after 2 rounds of attack. Leftover hit points just going to get finished up by even the splash damage of a Hellion. Hellion's normally not effective against roaches, but that Hellion splash damage coupled with the siege tank splash damage will be able to just soften them up and destroy them. We are getting into level 3 vehicle upgrades, level 2 plating, adrenal glands, level 3 claw attacks, and a lot more Zerglings. But this seems more like a desperate attempt to try to get back into this game as opposed to a true and serious counter. The Zerglings are going to run up into this base and now see a planetary fortress, and that planetary fortress is just going to get repaired by SCVs very easily. You can see already up to 13 kills. Zerglings now going to swarm and take down this Thor here. Down it goes, as we'll see whether or not the Zerglings will be able to make that up the ramp. Oh, they should have been able to make it up the ramp, but there was a Hellion there just in time as the bunker able to hold them off. In comes a new group of Hellions and Siege Tanks, and the Hellions absolutely able to toast their way through all of those Zerglings. Siege Tanks, Zerglings now going to swarm in from the back over here. Some Siege Tanks will get taken down, only one in that engagement, as we are now seeing the Thors make their way in. Broodlords are being added. They are a little bit far away, and those Broodlords are not going to be that effective against, or not going to be, or sorry, the Thors are not going to be effective against those Broodlords, as the Thors deal additional damage to light. This hatchery looks like it will get taken down here. It's going to get taken down. Down it goes, as we now see the the Hellions and Siege Tanks making their way forward once more. 3-4 Broodlords in the air, Zerglings on the ground, now upgraded 2-1, soon to be 3-1. Getting in a couple of Corruptors as well. There are Zerglings and Hellions off over here. The Hellions will reach there. The Mutalisks are going to get in perhaps some damage. And no, it is just going to be able to get in some damage. There are not too many drones. The drones need to hide, will not be able to do so. A Queen going to get quickly toasted. And now this hatchery going to get taken down by fire, as the Zerglings now making their way in, and it will be able to simply run by here on the front door and now get in a lot of damage. SCVs are going to get destroyed. It looks like this orbital command will get taken down. No, now going to get repaired instead, as the Zerglings should be going after the SCVs. SCVs now just going to get ripped to shreds here. There are a lot of drones hiding off over here, so not too much damage being dealt there, as now without any Terran building armor, we'll see how all this is going to work. Zerglings now going to make their way inside the base. SCVs are going to come over to try to repair. It looks as though Hellions will be popping out in just a moment, and now that is going to be a toasting party, and all of those Zerglings getting destroyed, and down it goes. 4 Broodlords on their way back, as Josh now rebuilding his forces once again. Production tab shows a fair number of Vikings being added into the air with, 5 starports, none of them with reactors. So just training up a whole bunch of air units in just a moment, and we'll be able to destroy all of those Broodlords here. Zerg now essentially running off of one base, or half a base only, as those mineral patches are low. This hatchery is going to be rebuilt, but it will be quite some time before it is back up, as JoshFreeman is just currently sitting with 2 planetary fortresses, sitting very defensively, and now going to start strip mining this starting 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock location. It looks like Josh just wants to get back up to 200 food. We are getting a vehicle or ship upgrades now, and we are going to have about a squadron of 15 Vikings in the air, and also getting into vehicle plating. So the Thors will be upgraded 3-3, no 250mm strike cannons though, as the Broodlords are going to make their way out, and without any Corruptors, that is going to be a very, very bad day, as these Vikings will just shoot them straight out of the sky. Lancer torpedoes, ship upgrades about 60 seconds away. We are going to have a couple Corruptors. Zerglings now trying to find their proper positioning here. We are getting into even more factories, a lot of production buildings here, as a Hellion now going to get taken down there. Broodlings are upgraded 3-1. They do attack fairly quickly. Broodlords are now going to try to engage. Vikings now coming over as well, and that's way too many Vikings. Broodlords going to get taken down, and that is going to be all she wrote, I think. There's just simply too much of an army, and there is the GG. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed the games from these games here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I will be looking for more high-level replays as they are released, and stay tuned for that.